All right, so today we're diving deep into making those contracts work harder,
Oh, I like that.
We're talking about that 10x contract value. It might sound a bit, well, too good to be true at first.
Yeah, 10x. That's a bold claim.
It is. But we're going to get into it. We've got Tyja Dickerson's 10x contract value, and we're also looking at the purpose of contracts. That's a report by World Commerce and Contracting and Deloitte. So get ready to see contracts a little differently.
Yeah, one thing that struck me, like right off the bat with both of these sources is they point out this kind of weird thing about contracts. We all know they're important, right?
Absolutely.
But it's like everyone's responsible for them, but also no one's really responsible for them at the same time. It's strange.
It's like this weird gray area. It's like they're essential, like the backbone of any business deal.
Right.
But then Dickerson calls it out this no one owns the contract problem.
Mm-hmm.
How does something so important end up just floating around like that?
It's wild. It's a recipe for like inefficiency, missed opportunities.
Oh, for sure.
You've got legal, they're all about the compliance. Sales just want to close that deal.
Right.
Finance is focused on the bottom line. And then the contract itself just becomes this thing that everybody touches, but nobody's really owning it.
Yeah, no one's really taking ownership and seeing the bigger picture, right? And that's got to be where things start to fall apart.
Exactly. Missed cost savings, strained relationships, even like legal issues down the road. If you don't have that one holistic view of your contracts, how are you supposed to like unlock their potential?
Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. Both sources talk about treating contract data as, get this, Tier 1 data.
Tier 1, wow.
Yeah, which doesn't exactly sound throwing.
It doesn't sound like a party, right?
No, not really. But hear me out.
Okay, right.
Because when you think about it, Tier 1, that's your critical stuff, right? Financial records.
Mission critical.
Exactly. Dickerson's arguing that contract data, that deserves to be in that same category.
Because it is mission critical. I mean, think about it. It's not just legal jargon. It's literally like the DNA of your business relationships.
Exactly.
It dictates your financial obligations, responsibilities, how you interact with other companies. I mean, if you're not using that information, that's like leaving money on the table.
Or worse. So what's the solution here? Are we all supposed to just like hire an army of lawyers and have them comb through every single line?
Well, that's where technology comes in to, save the day.
Okay, good.
Dickerson talks about AI, machine learning, even blockchain. That it's changing the game of how we deal with contracts.
All right, so we're talking AI-powered contract analysis. That's more like it.
Yeah.
But let's be real for a second. Contracts are complicated.
Oh, you're telling me.
It's like they're written in a different language sometimes.
Right. And the World Commerce and Contracting Report, they actually found that most people find contracts difficult to understand.
Really?
All that jargon, ambiguous clauses, it's asking for trouble.
They said only 39% of legal and contract professionals believe that contracts actually help get good business outcomes.
Yeah, it's a little disheartening, honestly. I mean, a contract that's tough to understand.
Yeah.
Inefficient at best, a liability at worst.
Yeah, exactly. So we have this idea of contracts as these powerful tools, but then the reality is it's like this jumbled mess of confusing language. How do we bridge that gap?
Well, Dickerson's answer to that is simplification and data democratization. Basically, make those contracts clear and give everyone who needs access to that information the ability to understand it.
Think it makes sense?
Exactly. Translate that complex legal stuff into something that everyone in the company can actually use.
And that's how you tap into that 10x potential.
Exactly. Give everyone from sales to procurement to legal the power to use that contract data to make smarter choices, find those opportunities, and get better results. It's not just about like avoiding risk. It's about using contracts to help your business grow.
I like that. This is already making me rethink my whole view of contracts. Maybe instead of being a necessary evil, they could actually be valuable.
There you go. That's the spirit. And both sources actually offer some pretty practical advice on how to make that happen.
Okay, so how do we actually put this into practice? Where do we even begin?
Well, one of the first things Dickerson talks about is centralizing your contract management. Have one place where all your contracts live.
Get organized.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It gives you that like bird's eye view of your obligations, risks, opportunities, all it.
It's like that saying, you can't polish.
Yeah, contract you can't find.
Exactly. Okay, so once you've got that clear picture, you can actually start to figure out how to improve.
Right. You can use technology to automate stuff, make your contracts more consistent, and really dig into that data.
Work smarter, not harder.
Exactly. And the World Commerce and Contracting Report. they're on the same page. Clear communication, flexible terms, and a focus on building those strong relationships through your contracts.
So it's not just about throwing some fancy AI at the problem.
Right.
It's about combining tech with a more strategic, holistic approach to contracts. Your whole company needs to be on board.
Absolutely. Recognize that contracts, when done right, can be a real driver of growth and innovation, stronger relationships, all of that.
It's funny, we always think about contracts as minimizing risk.
Yeah.
But this whole 10x value idea, it's like they can actually help you grow,
It's a real mindset shift.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing contracts as, ugh, that thing you have asterisk to do, it's about seeing them as a way to create value, drive innovation.
So it's not just the words on the paper, it's the whole approach, right? Like how you make the agreement, manage it, use it.
Exactly. And the World Commerce and Contracting Report, they're big on that. They talk about clear communication, collaboration throughout the entire process from start to finish.
So get your legal team involved early on, make sure everyone's on the same page from day one.
Exactly. And that plays into what Dickerson calls data democratization. Everyone who needs to see the contract data, they should be able to.
So no more crucial details stuck with just the legal team. Everyone can see what's going on, the good and the bad.
Exactly. Transparency is key, right? Think about it. Your sales team, they could see opportunities to upsell based on what's already in a contract. Procurement can negotiate better deals because they can see what's worked in the past.
It's like giving everyone X-ray vision into their business relationships.
Love that. And the best part, this isn't some far-off thing. The technology is already here. We've got AI, machine learning, those fancy CLM systems. They can automate tasks, find those insights, make the whole process smoother.
Okay, so the tech is there, but what about the human side of things? Dickerson mentions this 10x mindset. What does that even mean?
It's about always looking for ways to improve, to innovate. Don't be afraid to question how things are done. Be open to new ideas, especially when it comes to contracts.
So less about how do we not get sued and more about how do we actually use these contracts to grow?
Exactly. Contracts are assets, not just legal hurdles. But that takes a shift in thinking in the company culture. It's not just a software update.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
You can't just buy a fancy new program and expect everything to be perfect, right?
Right. You need to build a culture that actually values contracts, sees them as tools for success, and the World Commerce and Contracting Report, they talk about that too. People need training, they need guidance to manage contracts well.
So invest in your people, not just the technology.
Exactly. Give them the tools and the knowledge to really use those contracts strategically.
And they also talk about flexibility, being able to adapt, which seems really important nowadays with how fast everything changes.
Oh, absolutely. The old way of doing contracts, so rigid it can't keep up.
Yeah.
Dickerson actually talks about using ideas from agile methodology, making it more collaborative and iterative.
So less set in stone, more like a living document kind of thing.
Yeah. The contract should be able to change as your business relationship changes. It should be about partnership, shared success, not just a transaction.
It's interesting how we started talking about all these little details in contracts. And now we're talking about big picture relationships and creating value.
It shows how important contracts really are, right?
They're the glue that holds everything together.
They're not just about protecting yourself. It's about setting up a way to have successful relationships that benefit everyone. Both Dickerson and that World Commerce and Contracting Report, they're really big on that.
It's like they're saying, don't get so caught up in the legal stuff that you forget about building those strong relationships. Which makes sense, right?
Totally. And it's in that spirit of partnership, that focus on working together and succeeding together, that's where that 10x potential really comes in.
Not about squeezing every penny. It's about finding ways to grow together.
Exactly.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners? Someone who's thinking, okay, I'm sold, 10x contract value, sign me up. Where do we even start?
First thing to remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's about shifting your mindset, always trying to improve, being open to new tech, new ways of doing things.
So start with that 10x mindset Dickerson talks about. Be ready to shake things up a bit.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to ask, why are we doing it this way? Look for ways to simplify things, make them more consistent, automate what you can.
And don't forget about the tech. AI contract review, automated risk analysis, those CLM systems, those can really make a difference.
For sure. But it's not just asterisk about the tech. You got to invest in your people too. Give them the training, the support they need to not just manage contracts, but to really use them strategically.
And communication is key. Break down those silos, make sure everyone's in the loop. Create a culture where people can actually talk about contracts and use them to work together.
100%. When you approach contracts with that collaborative spirit, that focus on shared success, that's when the magic happens.
This has been, honestly, eye-opening. Who knew we could talk about contracts for this long and actually, have a good time?
Right. But that's what a good depth dive is all about. We uncover the hidden potential, challenge those old assumptions, hopefully give you something to think about.
And speaking of thinking, it's time for our final thought for today. If a bad contract can lead to trouble, could a really good one be the key to unlocking, crazy growth for your business?
Wow. Now, that's asterisk a question.
Hmm.
I think it's clear contracts can be so much more than just these legal documents. They can be strategic tools, they can help you grow, and they can be the foundation for really strong relationships. The real question is, are asterisk ready to tap into that potential?
I like that. And that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Hopefully you found it insightful, engaging,
Yeah.
maybe even a little inspiring.
I know.
Until next time, happy contracting, everyone.